We didn't even do our normal thing before this show. Jerris and I always do a paper, rock, scissors on seeing who's going to start this thing off. I either won or I lost. So I drew Hopkins, Jerris Johnson, David Wheelis, here for the Real Deal Landman Show. Thank you for joining us again. We are so happy to be back. This is an early morning recording that we're doing, even earlier for Jerris out in Colorado. So thank you for rolling out of bed and doing your hair up nice, putting on a hat for us. You've got the Real Deal Landman hat that I've never got one. I've got the Real Deal Landman slap bracelets that you've never got one.
That I still don't have. We
need to do a formal trade at some point. Yeah. I think at some point we'll get together.
It'll be like you got the stuff.
you got what I'm looking for? Okay.
Yeah, you got what I'm looking for?
Fantastic. Yeah, the back alley trade. Absolutely. We're really excited today. We are back on the horse with Land Centered, and David Wheelis is our special guest. He is the VP of Land and Business Development here in Oklahoma City at Caliber Resources Partners. I've known David for a long time. Excellent guy. If you're in the Oklahoma City area, I'm sure you have met him too. But David, welcome to probably the biggest podcast that you have ever been on in your life. I'm assuming. Is that right?
That's a true statement. Very, very appreciative to be here. So thanks, Drew. Thanks, Jerris.
You just diving right into it because we've really got a lot to talk about. Just give our listeners just a introduction to how did you get started in the oil and gas industry, and what was kind of the thing that brought you into energy space?
Yeah, so I'll give you the short and dirty first, and then the longer version. But my grandmother's in the business, so Ella McDonald. She has successful land brokerage and been in the business for 45 plus years now. And coming out of school, I wasn't real sure what I wanted to do. I actually wanted to be a fireman. My dad was a policeman. He said, do not ever be a policeman. Nobody's happy to see you. It's not worth it. Okay. So I thought fireman was the route I wanted to go, and had some connections there with the Oklahoma City Fire Department. Well, I get a call from Ella and said, oh, I really think you would just love checking records in Stevens County, Oklahoma. And it's just so fascinating.
Absolutely.
Like, okay, I'll come check it out. And it's horrible. Did not like it at all. And so did it for 2 weeks or so. And, I'm not sure this is for me. And so went back home. A few weeks later, she called again. Hey, what do you think about coming to Ardmore on this Chesapeake exploration project? Well, I don't know. I'll give it a shot. And I had a really good buddy, blessed that I have a lot of great people in my life, but a lot of friends that I've been friends with for 30 plus years, and, gave me some good advice. And he said, you can commit to a year. After that, you feel like it's not for you, or whatever reason you want to do something else. Year's going to go by so fast. And so that's what I did. I set out to give it a year. And I swear every time I was, the doubt started to creep in. I was like, I don't know about this. I would get a call from Ella, and she'd say, wow, you're just doing such a great job, and to recognize you, for your hard work, we're going to bump up your day rate a little bit. It's like, well, I can do this a little longer. And so that happened like 3 or 4 more times. And then I was just sucked in, and got to meet a lot of wonderful people, and was fortunate that had some great people at Chesapeake that took a liking to me. And so it went from, Ardmore, Lake Murray, east, Southwest Arbuckle, Wrench Trend, on down to exploration program in Atoka, Bryan, and Choctaw counties, and then over to the Haynesville when it was kicking off. Then from the Haynesville, I was actually headed to a meeting on my way to Dallas, and got a phone call from Cabot. Said, hey, would you be able to come up to Pennsylvania? Want to replace a broker on our project and would like you to take it over. Sure. When? All right, tomorrow. Like, okay. Where at? They're like, Dimmick. I'm like, well, where's that? And they're like, by Scranton. I'm like, well, where's that? So I got the chrome dome, but I had hair at the time and no clothes. So I had to go to the mall, get a haircut, buy some clothes, go up there for this meeting. Thought I'd come right back. And Ella thought differently. She was like, wow, you're doing such a good job. And,
Just hang
meeting
out
all
up
these new
there.
people, just stay up there.
Yeah.
And I was worried I'd never get to come back to Oklahoma City. So did that for a couple of years and moved back in 2011. Still working with Ella and just fantastic exposure. Got to work with so many different companies, so many different plays. When I had stepped out of McDonald Land Services, we had 350 consulting landmen going from Florida to California and everything in between. And so it's just a great learning experience, a great opportunity to, see what works, what doesn't, build the Rolodex, if you will, business aside, but it dives into it. I had a autoimmune liver disease, primary sclerosing cholangitis. It's what Walter Payton and Chris Ledoux had. The only cure is a transplant. And so the only thing that you could do is let it essentially take its course and get worse until you're sick enough to be listed for a transplant. And typical time of diagnosis to transplants, 10 years. So this was 2010 when I was diagnosed, and I thought I was good till 2020. Well, 2015 started rearing its head and just kind of went downhill from there. Wife, who is a saint, stepped up, said, hey, I want to be your donor. She donated 40% of her liver to me and saved my life. We did that at the Cleveland Clinic in Cleveland, Ohio.
Were you all married whenever that happened, or were you just dating?
We were still dating.
Whoa.
I'm telling you, that's that. You've told me this before. That is wild, man. So like, I mean, don't take this the wrong way, but like the anchor that my girlfriend at the time she got us a puppy, and she was like, hey, you love this puppy, right? I was like, I freaking love that puppy. And then I was like, we got to get married, obviously. I mean, I feel like whenever a girl gives you part of her liver, I feel like that's like, you know what, we probably better keep this going a little while, you know? I mean, I don't want to say the liver is equatable to the puppy, but we're weighing it out.
Close.
That's
Yeah.
a pretty good anchor item right there, David. She
Oh,
sounds
yeah.
like a pretty good girl.
Yeah, she's incredible.
Awesome.
Truly. Fortunately, everything went very well. And throughout that experience, or after that experience, I should say, she said, hey, I want to help people. And so she went back to school for nursing. She's a nurse now. And I decided to do something different as well. Feeling better. I had a call from a group rolling out of Newfield Mid-Continent in Tulsa and said, hey, would you like to put a team together, go out, fundraise? And it's just a different challenge. And thought, yeah, I'd like to do that. And so that's what we did. She went back to nursing school and we hit the fundraising circuit, built a company from the ground up there in the Arcoma, and ultimately it didn't work out. And so a lot of, tough lessons, but, lessons that I do believe are valuable and will serve me well over time, and happy that it happened, earlier in my career than, at a later stage. And, you lose the nest egg. So
Absolutely.
a lot of gray hairs from that,
Dude, I believe it.
experience.
I totally believe it. From the time that you were working with Ella, what do you think the main lessons that like she taught you? Like what was something that you really took away from your experience of being able to work with her?
Just a lot of what would seem to be small things, but little things make big things happen. And so just the golden rule and showing people that you care, and big deal back then. And this has been a while now, but, making sure that everybody's getting a check the 1st and the 15th. On the broker side, there's some that, maybe their clients wouldn't pay for 90 days. And so, brokers aren't getting paid for at least 90 days.
Yeah.
Ella was very big on like 1st and the 15th, regardless of whether, the company gets paid or not, because how can you have somebody out in the field or on a project, trying to focus on the work at hand when, don't know how to cover expenses back at home, and, things like that, handwritten notes, punctuality, checking in more than anything. So every time she'd come into the office, she'd always bring good energy and how are you doing today? And how, how's everything going? And, and just the persistence too, that, it takes to get a lease, get, a deal done. So you
absolutely.
get knocked down a lot, but you have to keep going.
David, I have some questions for you on that download of your past, of your history there. So Stevens County, is that one of the counties where they've got jail inmates doing groundskeeping and janitorial work and stuff like that? Seems like I remember seeing that when I was there.
It is. And so that was a change of scenery as well. Like, what have I gotten myself into?
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, your first ever land gig and you're showing up and you're working, arm in arm with guys in orange jumpsuits. I was just curious what your first impression was from that.
Yes. Anybody watching these guys, all the things that could go south in a hurry.
Yeah. I was also going to ask, so you mentioned Cabot and you mentioned Dimmick, and highly publicized litigation and things happening in that area. Did you have any involvement, or did you have interactions with landowners that you were doing on behalf of Cabot, or did you experience any of that fallout or any of that tension that was existing at the time?
Yes and no. If you watch Gasland, there was a road, Carter Road, and there's 4 or 5 houses, just small lots, and a lot of noise came from that road. I talked to everybody around there, at least 20, 30-mile radius, and felt overall everybody had a pretty good understanding of what was happening and an appreciation for industry coming back in. And so many I talked to, saying, hey, we were going to have to sell the farm, and now we're able to pay off the debt, and pleasantly surprised at the number of people that Cabot's leasing for $2,000 an acre, right? Well, Chesapeake comes in and 5,000, and then it's a bidding war. And so, instead of being upset, well, I should have gotten 7,000. They knew at the time, like, well, the going rate was 2,000 or 1,500, and that's better than we had the day before we signed it, and so that allowed us to pay off some debt and put a little nest egg back. And so overall, I think people are very appreciative, and would tell stories that, hey, I've lived here 90 years, and I always remember being able to light our tap water on fire with just the coal bed methane. And so I think people overall were appreciative, but certainly it was like a wild, wild west for a period of time.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, this has been some years. And so these media portrayals aren't as relevant now as they were before, but obviously people know about Gasland, that movie, that documentary that was done. A lesser known one that was super fascinating for people who may not have seen it. It's definitely worth looking up. But it was called Frack Nation. And it was an independent journalist from Europe that was just curious on what was happening and came and reported on what he found. He claims, that there was zero industry endorsement or zero industry funding. And so allegedly what you're watching is as unbiased as possible. Nice. And so I take it at that, at that face value of what's being told. But if you're interested in some of those early days of the Marcellus and you haven't watched Frack Nation, it's interesting, some of the stories that were uncovered about what went into the making of Gasland, as well as some of these stories and things that you're telling, David, on the people and the successes that were there. Kind of during that same time period that you mentioned, I was doing Marcellus work as well from an in-house perspective. And there was a time, right, when there was so much leasing and things that were happening, and eventually the areas that people knew where they wanted to drill were identified, and other areas they stopped leasing. And early on, I was tied in a little bit with the early days of the Marcellus Shale Coalition, and they had a booth set up at this big farm expo. And the interactions that I had with the people were all positive, but there were also different sentiments. And throughout the day that I was there working this booth, countless individuals came up and said, hey, are you guys still leasing? Or do you know anybody who is still leasing? Did you hear the story from some people who would say, we were able to lease, it changed our lives, it was the best thing ever. There were other people who said, we never had a chance to lease because it never came to our area, but we always wish it had. And then there were also people who came along, and I mean, you could just see them heartbroken. And it was, the opportunity came. I waited. I held out for more. I joined a landowner group, or I did something else, and then it was gone. And I missed my chance. And I need it. Is anybody leasing anything? I don't care what they're paying. And it was really sad to see that sentiment on, either. And I don't want to say they were greedy, and maybe it's possible they were duped a little bit by some of the, sensationalism that things were happening. But
where was that happening, Jerris? This story particularly?
So I was in Harrisburg, which would be kind of like a neutral ground, right? Yeah. And it was this big farm. It was like the biggest farm expo in the state or Commonwealth, and so everybody would come in, and so it was like it was a neutral area where I was able to get the perspectives of a lot of different people that were coming in. And I mean, obviously, this story 15 years later sticks in my head of recognizing that opportunities will come along, and those opportunities may not always be there. And sometimes, don't overthink it, or don't listen to outside influences. Go with your gut, go with your heart, go with what feels right, and seize that opportunity, because it may leave and it may not come back.
One of the most burned in my memory stories that I always had was I had to go down to the Haynesville in Shreveport and Bossier City quite a bit whenever that was really, really hot and leasing. And one time we were down there, and we had already done we had been at our field office, and they were having these big leasing events at the county fairgrounds and everything there. And I remember going, and we didn't have anything to do that evening. We just wanted to go and just meet with a few royalty owners and everything. And there was a guy up on stage, and I don't know if he was an attorney in Bossier City, but it was almost like one of those big tent Baptist revivals.
Yeah.
He was whipping the crowd into such a fury, and he was saying, I remember it just like it was yesterday. He was like, I know you've been offered $25,000 an acre. It's not going to be 25. It's not going to be 30. It's not going to be 35. It's not going to be 40. And he was like, we're going to get up to $55,000 or $60,000 an acre. And I remember feeling it wasn't a scared feeling, but it was a super nervous feeling, because you were the expectation is so high. And also a lot of the people that were sitting there, I mean, you knew for a fact that they had never seen that sort of money before in their life. And whenever he's telling them that what they're being offered will be doubled, if not, 2x times, 2 plus, they were really believing it. And right after that, it was no sooner that we had got back to the office, maybe the next week or no more than a 2-week span, that the bottom started dropping out. And all the leasing that was outstanding, they were those deals are off the table. The new deal is $5,000 an acre or $3,500 an acre. And just like what you said, we were getting calls constantly of, well, hold on, I still have the paperwork for 30. Can we sign it? And we'll take it. We'll totally take
it. Similar calls, just across multiple places, but Haynesville, to your point, Drew, was probably, the largest as far as the dollar figures, but so many, we're holding out for 26.5, and it's hey, 25 is really great. Really think about this. And then, the train was halted, and, it's no new leasing. We've got to shoot seismic, and we need to figure out what's what. Everybody called back, like y'all said, hey, we're 24, we'll cut you a deal. No, 20, 15, just the desperation in the voices is, pretty sad thing to hear. So
yeah, definitely was. Boy, on that happy note.
Well, hang on now.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
I had one more question.
No, get it, Jerris.
So I know our I always want to laugh when I use the phrase all of our listeners. So I know that all of our listeners typically are listening. They're not watching. But I have to, so David is sitting in front of this wall, and I've had my eyes focused on what is behind him. And for a while I was thinking it was these 2 columns of these white lamppost things. And I was like, that is Okay, everybody has their own stylistic lighting choices, I guess, in their room. But these are all hard hats, right?
Yes.
So
These are,
tell us about it. So tell us. Oh my gosh, there's more columns.
Cool?
Holy smokes!
Pretty cool.
Okay, so give us a story about these hard hats.
This is my
There's
deal.
got to be like, how many are there? There's got to be like 15, 20?
Yeah, 25. I think I need to running out of room, so we got to start a new row. But
so there are 25 people out there working that are very unsafe right now.
yeah.
That's right. David's like, go on out to the field.
The hard hat bandit has struck again.
Yeah, can you edit that out? Just by nature of what we're doing at Caliber non-op, we move so quickly, and deal tombstones and deal toys and such went away for the most part, and always want to celebrate the wins. And so, I asked for a hard hat if the counterparty is an operator, and then everybody that worked on the deal to sign it and just bring it back to the office. And
It's awesome.
For me, every time I see it, it brings up a good memory and good time working with others. And started, let's say 2017. So it was a previous company, was doing a deal with Continental, and $70 million deal. Get a phone call like 7:30 at night from Steve Owen, who was the SVP of land at the time for Continental. He said, "Man, David, you're not going to believe this." I'm thinking, oh gosh, like been working on this deal for a year. I guess the deal's off. Let's see. He's like, well, Harold has to look over everything. And so he was looking over the deal. There's a 2015 Chevy Silverado with 6,000 miles on it, and he just doesn't want to part with it. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, hold on, Steve. Like, pulled off on the side of the road, Googling, Harold Hamm's net worth. It was like 16 billion at the time. And he's like, really? This one truck? And he's like, I know. It's like, he didn't want to let it go. And so just really couldn't think of anything to ask. Some concessions that I thought were fair. And then I was like, and I want a Continental hard hat signed by Harold Hamm. And he started laughing, and he's like, oh, you're serious? And I was like, yeah, serious. He's like, I don't know. I'll try, but, I don't know if I could get that done. It's like, I think you could get it done. Let's see. And wanted to pick up the executed PSA, and he had the signed hard hat for me from
That
Mr.
is so
Hamm.
stinking
that
cool.
was the first one that kicked it off, and just kind of been doing it since. So
that's awesome.
That is really cool. I thought they were all you guys' hard hats, but that's amazing. That's like a little trophy for every account you guys work with. That's awesome.
Yeah, I get more excited over these than the deals, I guess.
That is so cool.
Like, yeah, I got a hard hat. Wife's like, hey, get in the back. I got to strap this thing in the front.
Yeah, it's not like you've ever done anything for me.
Yeah, what have you done for me?
Right.
Oh, save my life. Okay.
So I know Drew is itching to get to the next point. I do have one more question though, because I think this will be really interesting. So as I'm understanding your transition, you went from doing field broker type work to going directly to a company that was going to raise a fund and go do all kinds of, deals, acquisitions, stuff like that. That's a pretty like stark transition. Usually when you hear of guys that are getting PE backing or joining a team or something, often they're ex company guys who had the network and the contacts of all the other company landmen. But I mean, you went from broker to we're going to get a group and raise money and do that. Is that really what your transition was? How'd you do that? What was that like?
Yeah. So great question. On the broker side, essentially went, after a year, maybe 2-3 years, building the relationships with various clients, was very, very grateful and appreciative that, was able to build those relationships. And so there's a lot of trust there. And with that becomes additional responsibility. And so, hey, can you do this? And just kind of spider webbed and allowed me to grow my relationships within the industry. And so we were doing work for Newfield and said, hey, really like what you do. Love to do something that, we're going to shut down this office in Tulsa. A lot of people don't want to move to Houston, or I just moved from Houston and don't want to move back. And so what do you think? Like, I like challenges. So yeah, sure, I'm in. And really just, get together at the coffee shop, brainstorm. Okay, what areas, would we like to target on the capital side? Who do we want to meet with? NCAP had a guy in Tulsa at the time. And so he had jumped out. And so we were talking to NCAP, and then just through our collective networks, friend of a friend type thing, reached out to set meetings up with Kane and Quantum and White Deer and some other smaller ones. And we're actually all set to go with Quantum. And Vitruvian was exiting, and they said, hey, you'll be our mid-con team. And so wonderful. Everything I've heard so far, actions and words are in alignment. Our board was set, docs were set, everything was ready to go. And then, our CEO received a call from Tom Edelman. He called, gave his pitch, and said, oh, that sounds good. And we pulled away last minute from Quantum and just had so much appreciation for how Quantum handled that. It was interesting just during the fundraise, the different flavors of the groups, all similar in a lot of ways, but starkly different in others. And I just really liked what the Quantum team had to say. I mean, when we went to break up with them, the way they handled that was just incredible. No preparation on our side, I will say, and thought that, point out something in the agreement, say, hey, provision 7's just not going to work for us. And they'd say, well, kick rocks. Well, that didn't happen. So they're like, strike it. And CEO, COO, and myself, and I'm just on an island at this point. And I was, 20, that's a non-starter. Well, what do you want it to say? Really scrambling at that point. And then Dee Verma was the president of Quantum at the time, and he called his assistant in and said, hey, clear the rest of my day, cater and lunch. We're going to go through this page by page and line by line until the team's happy. Awesome. And
wow, spent
all day doing that, and still called and said, hey, we're going in a different direction. And that was a pretty big blow to me. It's like, man, I really wanted to do something with these guys. I think, all my diligencing, everything checks out. I thought they may essentially say, hey, you're dead to us. We never want to talk to you guys again. But they didn't, and so kept up my relationship and think very highly of the group over at Quantum.
That's fantastic.
But, yeah, it was a great learning experience. I was fortunate that, our CEO put a lot of trust and a lot of faith in me. And so from taking leases to negotiating on the deal front to, overseeing our seismic acquisition I got to do everything. So it was great to not have those silos and be able to learn and deal with, so many other facets of the industry that I wasn't previously exposed to.
Yeah. Great story. Thanks for sharing that with us.
It really speaks. And I mean, from what you said all the way back in like the broker days about how important relationships are. And I mean, that story just is evidence of that, right? Of continuing on with good relationships, working with good people, and knowing how, building something together can drive it forward. And I know that's what you have been kind of at the axis of what you've been wanting to do at Caliber, and it's definitely shown that you guys have continued to find different deals. What are you currently looking for right now? Is it just open, or are there certain things that Caliber is really focused on right now?
Yeah, so we are 100% non-op. Currently hold working interest in 7,200 wells across 11 states, 65,000 net acres. Along with that, Jerris, you may or may not know, but we acquired the bulk of Aubrey's founder's interest. So, we're going to cross your name quite a bit. We could talk about your land work on another podcast.
I don't know why fear shot through me. That was my first emotion. I was like,
oh no.
Yeah. We're sitting at, a lot of people hate BOEs, but we're sitting at 56,000 barrels of oil equivalent a day net to our interest. And it's about 70-30 gas to oil. And so we're looking for anything and everything that's under that non-op umbrella. So wellbore AFEs, non-op PDP, joint acquisitions, operated sell downs, drilling JVs, things like that. So we deployed close to 2 billion to date, and the appetite's is still very, very much there. And we're trying to hustle and find every opportunity and turn over every rock and shake all the bushes. And we've got a great team. Leadership here is fantastic. If you guys aren't familiar with Shilpa Abbott, she's just fantastic human being, and I could have my own podcast just talking about how great she is.
We don't need the competition. Calm down.
Yeah.
Thank you.
She's incredible, though.
You guys have put together a really fantastic leadership team. It's not the right word to say that Caliber kind of scoots under the radar of a lot of people, but it is really one of those that has just built a very firm foundation, and you guys continue to do the right things, find the right people to partner with, and it is continuing to grow at a really rapid pace. So if you haven't checked out Caliber, make sure that you do and look them up and see what David and the rest of the team are doing.
I appreciate that.
Whenever we're doing this show and we're finding out about the people that are part of this industry and the different companies that they're working with, one of the main things that we really look at is, and I think we've all seen it throughout our careers, is how these different companies and how these different people are making a huge impact in their community. And one of the reasons why we wanted to bring David on today was because of one of the things that he's started and has grown. If you've listened to the last 40 minutes of this podcast, you can see his passion, you can see the character that he is. And so you will not be surprised at all to know that he has started a great relationship with Oklahoma Children's Hospital here. And they have done an event now for, is it 7 years? The last 7 years?
This will be the 7th one.
The 7th years, or 7 years of doing a event called Drillers and Dealers. I think it's really only had that name the last couple, right?
Yeah, as creative as I like to think I am, I could not come up with a name for the event for 5 years. So it was just energy networking event. And finally.
And it was I'll tell you, for going to a lot of them, one of the best ones in Oklahoma City each year, and growing every single time. Just really, really expanding out. So this is coming up. Mark your calendars for June 2nd at the Jones Assembly in Oklahoma City. They close it down for the whole evening. It is one of the largest and just most captivating energy events every year. But the main thing that we want to do is I want to give David some time to be able to talk about where this came from and what it is and how your company, you the listener, can get involved. So David, walk us through a little bit about how Drillers and Dealers came to be and what it's giving back to.
Yeah, so
don't forget to tell us how much are tickets, for people to buy to go into, and all the sponsorship levels and how
all the 15 different sponsorship. That's right.
Fill us in on all that as well.
Appreciate that. So it started at just a small happy hour, and I reached out to a few groups, and the response was very positive. And being somebody that doesn't drink, I was really unsure of how much I needed to raise. So the first one was at Fassler Hall in Tulsa, and food, rent out the venue. Are people going to come in? And all I could just picture in my head, just, really jacked drilling engineers, going in and we're going to drink everything in this bar.
Right.
And it's no, please don't. I got a budget. And so what I found is a lot of people are, getting a beer or a drink and talking, catching up. And so there's not a whole lot of drinking going on. And, at the end of the night, after all was said and done and all the bills were paid, we had 20,000 left over. And that was not the goal of the event. And so I reached out to a friend at the time it was OU Children's Hospital. Now it's the Oklahoma Children's Hospital, and said, hey, look, we're left over with this money. It's not right, in my opinion. Would love to partner with you guys if you're open to it. And she said, yeah, we would love the opportunity to work with y'all. And so been partnered with them ever since, and they've been absolutely fantastic, and they'll bring the dogs to the event. But really wanted something that, preaching to the choir here, but we all go to so many events and it's so many discipline specific events. Well, to build out your network and your Rolodex and just meet others in the industry, it takes all disciplines moving forward to make things happen. And, I want accountants there, attorneys there, geologists, engineers, land, you name it. And so try to keep that pretty pretty representative of the overall sponsor list. And so, I think we're 72 sponsors, maybe a bit higher than that right now. And in sponsorship, there's one level, it's $1,000. So, one of the goals when I started this was, wanted it to be accessible for everybody. And so if you're a sole proprietor just starting out, you could probably swing it. If you're a, Diamondback, it's no problem. But, there's not all these random tiers, and it's $10,000, and really try to focus on what's the value proposition. I have so many now that come in from Houston and Midland and Denver, Tulsa, some as far as Pittsburgh as well.
Holy smokes.
Fortunately, it's grown every year, and people seem to really enjoy it. And so as long as that's the case, I'll keep doing it. Certainly more challenging trying to get 100 sponsors at $1,000 than saying, hey, let's do 2,000, but held firm on the line that, 1,000 is what I want to stick with, and, have to work harder to get there, then so be it. But don't want to deviate from the original intent and the plan. And that was for, sole proprietors, other disciplines to be able to come, hang out, network, and trying to take every excuse possible not to come. So we rent out the entire venue. So only oil and gas people will be there. Complimentary valet parking, open bar, food, a lot of great door prizes. I've got a silent auction.
Yeah.
So a couple, 3-day stays at cabins in Broken Bow and in Colorado, and various other things. Maybe a interpretive dance performance by Drew. Still negotiating that, but
Got this old knee injury, old sports injury. I'm still working out.
Hey, is that something to be done at the show, or are people bidding on a private interpretive dance?
Easy now.
I don't know. We'll go out to the world with that one.
That's right. From the experience of going to it each year, and just like what you said of last year and the year before, of standing at the bar talking to people, and it is absolutely packed, and you're talking to people from Midland and Denver and Houston that are flying in just for this event.
That's incredible.
And it's absolutely incredible. And whenever David mentioned the dogs are going to be there, those are those therapy dogs from OU Children's.
Okay.
And
this wasn't a saying. This was literal. Like,
yeah,
there will literally be dogs there.
There will literally be dogs there, but like they're super, as you would imagine, super sweet. They just walk through the absolute chaos of this event, and it doesn't faze them at all. And they just want to be like petted. The other thing that is usually there is Oklahoma Children's. Sometimes whenever a doctor isn't able to be in person to maybe talk to a kid, they've got what's like an iPad on just like a stand that's like a Segway, and it can roll around, and they bring a couple of those usually, and they have those set up to where you, Jerris, could be sitting at the bar, and you can have your face going around and mingling through the crowd in the different areas of the Jones Assembly, which is really fun. And like it's really funny. It's very unique for an event, But the biggest thing that I am just absolutely trying to hammer home with this, and why it's so cool, is that David continued on with that $1,000 sponsorship of, if you're a small company, $1,000 you can swing. If you're a big company, obviously you can do it, but he runs those sponsor list of the people that are supporting this the entire night over like the big screen, and you get that same promotion. But the main thing is you're giving to an absolutely fantastic cause, and it's 100% of the benefits of this. Is that right, David? I mean, it's after like the bar tab and everything's paid, but it's everything else. And then last year, was it over $100,000?
Yeah, so we've been very, very fortunate that each year it's grown. And so last year was the first year that we eclipsed the 6-figure mark, and so $107,000 or $100,750.
That's amazing.
It's amazing, man. You got to be super proud of that.
It's it's a pretty big undertaking, a lot of cat herding, but as long as everybody comes out and has a great time, and the Children's Hospital's just so incredibly appreciative of the industry support, and then they're able to build relationships as well, and hopefully parlay that into something bigger with Devon or Expand or Diamondback or whoever. have some of the largest companies in the space that will be in attendance and sponsoring. And so the goal is, regardless of where you work, what discipline, that you'll recognize somebody up there and say, oh, okay, yeah, 2 accounting groups. So if you're an accountant, there's something for me there. Or OFS, banking. So operators we've got energy insurance companies, energy recruiting firms. So really try to be as well-rounded as we can. And so it's not too lopsided, one way or the other. And website is drillersanddealers.com. And so you can go and check out some of the sponsors. We still have a few more to get up on the page, but pretty solid list so far. A lot of who's who in the industry. So very appreciative of that support, and that they find it a worthwhile use of their money and their time. And would encourage anybody that can come to please do come. Just bring a business card. It's myself and our fantastic office manager, Christina Kerr. And so, you're not getting a red wristband and somebody's getting a green one, and they mean different things. And it's everybody's on the same level, same playing field. So
what I love about this story is, you mentioning that you don't drink, but still putting this together. I don't drink. I never have. And like, that same trepidation that you had is exactly what I would be feeling. I mean, I have no idea what alcohol costs. I have no idea what it costs to buy a drink at a bar. The inspiration that I take from your story on that is being willing to step outside of your comfort zone and tackle something that you may not know anything about, and still turning it into an extraordinarily successful event and an extraordinarily successful venture. I mean, that's just awesome. You weren't an event planning coordinator. You obviously you had some contacts. You weren't even going to be participating in what the main feature was of the evening, but you still did it. That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I'm sure you could appreciate, the nervousness, especially the first go around, really the first 3. It's like, okay, well, I escaped the first one and that went fine, but next one, these guys are going to come back and they're going to, and it's not happened, knock on wood. Because ultimate goal is to, all that money goes to charity. So, a lot of people will come, have a drink or two, make the rounds, maybe do some light snacking. We'll do the giveaways throughout the night. And so, variety of cool things, silent auction, and, afterwards set up dinners and, go hang out. And not long ago, we were at the Thunder game with the Gulfport CFO, and he's like, I always know when the event's coming up because everybody reaches out as they're in town wanting to make the rounds. And so things like that, that's pretty cool to hear. Is I want everybody to benefit. I want this to be an industry event, and want something good to come out of it for everybody, and have a great time and for a great cause. It's just equitable outcome. That's how I approach everything. And so whether it's, in the field, Jerris, and you want to leave things better than you found it, the community, or just, their impression of the industry, and kind of similar with this. So
that's fantastic. Okay. So you said drillersanddealers.com. Is that, yeah. And if for some reason you didn't catch that website, obviously we want to help promote this incredible cause. So if you didn't quite catch the name, reach out to any of us through our methods, LinkedIn, comments, whatever. And we want to get you in touch with David and be able to support this amazing event, be able to attend, be able to sponsor. This is really cool. Definitely something that needs to be on the radar, apparently, regardless of where you live. If you've got people traveling in, that's awesome.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, a lot of people, I'd say at first glance think, oh, it's a mid-continent specific event. It's not. It's just held in Oklahoma City. And so, when you look at the sponsors and just the reach, touching every basin, and the who's who on the banking side, on the legal side, all the deal makers and the rest. And so, I think it is a good work. The value propositions there. And $1,000 isn't nothing, but I could take a pretty small group to a nice dinner and spend more than that. And this gives you the chance to interact with 400 or 500 other people and, grow your networks. It'd sure be nice to have a DO contact at this company. See if we can get, we need to get in pay. And, and now I have one. And same on, the geo side, and that communication and dialogue, and ultimately iron sharpens iron. And so be a lot of smart, good people there, and great to get them in your network.
So that's really, really cool.
But here's how great our CEO is delivering my Chick-fil-A.
Hey,
fantastic! Hey,
like to see it.
You're on a podcast too now.
I don't really have a podcast.
Well, too late.
Can't edit it out. Sorry, we don't know how. Well, we are wrapping it up. The one thing that I wanted, this is the Real Deal Landman Show. David, did you ever watch the Landman Show on Paramount Plus?
You guys are not going to be happy about this, but
we probably will
watched
be.
like 20 minutes, and I was like, I can't get into it.
Oh my goodness. Well, you probably watched 20 minutes more than a lot of our listeners. So what I can tell you is breaking news, Jerris. Breaking news online on the interwebs. There's a casting call going out for season 2 for extras in the Fort Worth, the Weatherford, the Crescent, and Irvine area, or Irving. Irvine. Sorry, Irving.
That's California.
It's Irving. What they are needing is individuals with paramedic experience. So somebody's going to die. Hate to hear that. The second is retirement home administrators. So unfortunately for us, for all of us, the beautiful Billy Bob's wife is still in the second season, evidently.
Oh no.
We need roughnecks with trucks is another one. And then we need women ages 20 to 30. So new love interest for Billy Bob. Fantastic to hear. It's called the Belichick rule. Look it up. And then the last thing that they've got, and this one was one that I found really interesting, was they're looking for Demi Moore's running double, like jogging double. And it says, submit videos of yourself running to mycastlefile.com. So if you all want to dress up and start running, I can give you the website. And that pays $250 a day for up to 12 hours of work. So just letting everybody know there's work out there. They said it's a rough economy right now. If you're looking for it, if you can run like Demi Moore, I don't know what her pace time is, but
quit your job. Quit your job now.
Jerris is given, this is sound advice right here. Quit your job and be the retirement home administrator for season 2 of the Landman Show.
It's just the beginning.
Drew, I'm putting in your info on that one. I'm envisioning Ben Stiller's character from Happy Gilmore.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
You will go to sleep or I will put you to sleep, right? That's the way it goes.
Hey, you play it right. You may have a spinoff there.
Now your back's going to hurt because you're on garden duty. Oh my gosh. So season 2 is happening. It's happening, people. We're all excited for it. If you need more information about that, contact us. Well, whatever. But if you need more information about drillers and dealers, need more information about Caliber Resource Partners, David Wheelis, fantastic guy. I am so stinking fortunate to know you. It has been one of the wonderful connections of this industry. And I am just absolutely, I'm a huge fan. This has been a great episode. Any last bits of wisdom from either of you fine gentlemen? Oh, we've said it all. That's
the wisdom for today.
That's the way to end it right there. So for Jerris Johnson, I'm Drew Hopkins. That's David Wheelis. Thank you for listening to the Real Deal Landman Show, and we will see you next time.
See ya.